Hello again, friends, and this week you join me in my lair as we look at the third book in the original Dungeons & Dragons white box. This is what came out, not like this. It was a little brown book, apparently. Never actually seen one in real life. I'm sure they do exist. And it's called The Underworld and Wilderness Adventures by Gary Gygax and Dave Arneson. And much has been added to the catalogues of D&D over the decades. But has something been lost? I don't know. Let's dig in and see if we can find out. Because this is the book I'm really interested in getting into. The characters, the men and magic generating player characters, that was of interest to me. And the second book that delved more into the monsters and the magic items, that was all interesting stuff. But, you know, this is where it's at, right? This is where we really get into the dungeon. So let's dig into it. And it starts off, no messing about. First page, you kind of get a dungeon. So I'm glad to be joined by some friends on here, Ralph and Lee. Hello there. I will look at the comments periodically and reflect on their wisdom. So it starts, the Underworld. Before it is possible to conduct a campaign of adventures in the mazy dungeons, it is necessary for the referee to sit down with pencil in hand and draw these labyrinths on graph paper. Now, I just remembered that in a previous episode, we looked at this and it said that it gave advice that the DM, I think, should have the 6 levels mapped out before the players even begin. It's a lot of work. Right, let's carry on. Unquestionably, it says, this will require a great deal of time and effort and imagination. The dungeons should look something like the example below, and with numerous levels which sprawl in all directions, not necessarily stacked neatly above each other in a straight line. So not just level, but level, sub-level. So check it out. That's kind of the intention there with the, various different levels. So we got first level, second, third, fourth, fifth and a half, 5th and 3/4. Did you ever think about that? Not 5th level, 6th level, 5th level, 5th and a half level, 5th and 3/4 level. And then at the bottom, 6th. In brackets cavern, and connecting them, stairs, slanting passage, chute, and just an arrow at the bottom saying etc. to be continued. More next time. Tune in. In the beginning, in beginning a dungeon, it is advisable to construct at least 3 levels at once, noting where stairs, trapdoors and chimneys, slanting passages come out on lower levels, as well as the mouths of chutes and teleportation terminals. In doing the lowest level of such a set, it is also necessary to leave space for the various methods of egress to still lower levels. A good dungeon will have no less than a dozen levels down, with offshoot levels in addition, and new levels under construction so that players will never grow tired of it. There is no real limit to the number of levels, nor is there any restriction on their size, other than the size of the graph paper available. Greyhawk Castle, for example, has over a dozen levels in succession downwards, and more than that number branching from these, and not less than 2 new levels under construction at any given time. Does he mean that he's planning out 2 more levels, or there are orcs chipping away at the rock, digging them out? Maybe both. I like to think there's tape and little signs and little trolls saying, no, you can't come in here, there's workmen on, mate. There's excavation taking place, you need a hard hat. These levels contain such things as a museum from another age, an underground lake, a series of caverns filled with giant fungi, a bowling alley for 20-foot-high giants, an arena of evil, crypts, and so on. I mean, shall we go to the bowling alley or the arena of evil? It's up to you. Now, a sample level is shown below in order to give the prospective referee in designing his own game. So this is all about, like, here's the game, you make stuff up, which I like. That's good. So we get quite a, well, let me show you. Here we get your dungeon map there, sampled level, with little signs on here for secret doors, pit traps, secret door with 2 possible ways to open, trap doors up, down. Yeah, quite a lot of little rooms kind of interlaced together with just doors between them, not corridors. A kind of weird round room with lots like sliced into a cake or a pizza with doors in between them. Yeah. And then we get a sample map of the underworld level, a key to it. I don't know if we want to read all this, but let's just pick out 1 or 2 things. Where's the pizza room? I'll just point out the pizza room. It's right here. See, it's like a little pizza. So that's I think that's in section 1, I guess. It's just labeled 1 to 8. Yeah, okay, yeah, it's in section 1. Note stairs lead down through blind passages and return to circular room with wedge-shaped divisions. Unless secret door is located in this area, will lead nowhere. Oh, okay, I'm putting the emphasis in the wrong place here. Unless secret door is located in this area, will lead nowhere. I think they've kind of missed the word out. Never mind, we'll forgive them. So, yeah, there's various descriptions of various rooms. Room E is a transporter 2 ways to just about anywhere the referee likes, including the center of the earth or the moon. It gets into big scope quite quickly. If that's like level 1, you can end up on the moon, but you know. What else do we have? Number 7, this is the nexus for a modular section which will revolve at random periods. Although the passages, north, south, etc., will always remain the same, the areas 10 times 20 feet beyond will be different at various times. Again, this will frustrate those setting out to map a level. All round rooms must not be nexuses. However, the circular structure in example 1 could, with a bit of alteration, be made into one, as could any room of any shape, providing the modules were properly designed so as to rotate around it. So basically, you know, straight away we're getting like teleportation, rotating rooms. We're getting that this is not just a regular bunch of rooms connected by passages. No, it's not that. It's all sorts of weird stuff going on. I mean, yeah, I mean, you've really got to kind of dig into this and see what it presents you, I guess. Requires your imagination. In laying out your dungeons, keep in mind that downward and upward mobility is desirable for players. For players will not find a game enjoyable which confines them too much. Very true. On the other hand, unusual areas and rich treasures should be relatively difficult to locate, and access must be limited. The layout of a level will affect the route most often followed by players. Observation of the most frequently used passages and explored rooms will guide the referee in preparation for successive levels, which, of course, should be progressively more dangerous and difficult. Let me just take a look at the comments here. Yes, pizza. Yeah, if you just join in, you've missed pizza. Tricks and traps. Besides those already indicated on the sample level, there are a number of other easily added tricks and traps. The fear of death. I like the way he uses inverted commas around things. It is just death, right? The fear of death, its risk each time, is one of the most stimulating parts of the game. It therefore behooves the campaign referee to include as many mystifying and dangerous areas as is consistent with a reasonable chance of survival, remembering that the monster population already threatens this survival. For example, and for some reason I've highlighted this bit with my highlighter pen a couple of years back, there is no question that a player's character could easily be killed by falling into a pit 30 feet deep or into a shallow pit filled with poison spikes, and this is quite undesirable in most circumstances. Here are a few simple items which can be included. Okay, so there's a few sample ideas for tricks and traps. False stairs, either up or down. Steps which lead to a slanting passage, so the player may actually stay on the same level, descend 2 levels, or ascend 2 levels. Traps which lead up a short distance and then go downward, or at least 2 levels, with the return passage blocked by bars or a one-way door. Intra-level teleportation areas, so that a player will be transported to a similar or dissimilar area on the same level, possibly activated by touching some item, such as a gem, door, or the like. Sinking rooms, including rooms which seem to sink, while the doors remain fast shut for a period of several turns. Illusion, mind control, and geas rooms. Sections which dead end so as to trap players being pursued by monsters. Doors which are openable from one side only, which resist opening from one side or which appear at random intervals. Natural passages and caverns which have varying width and direction so that it is virtually impossible to accurately map such areas. Space distortion corridors or stairs which seem longer or shorter than they actually are. Lots of strange stuff. Distribution of monsters and treasure. As a general rule, there will be far more uninhabited space on a level than there will be space occupied by monsters, human or otherwise. Now that's something like I've played the Moldvay edition and there's quite a lot of random rolls to see what's in rooms if you want to use that. And it's always quite nice, like get into rooms and there's nothing in them. I mean, when I say quite nice, it's like it intrigues you to sort of look in there and think, well, is there something here? Am I missing something? And it feels convincing that there would be rooms with nothing in. It's like a dungeon, right? Why would there be monsters in every room? The determination of just where monsters should be placed and whether or not they will be guarding treasure and how much of the latter, if they are guarding something, can become burdensome when faced with several levels to do at one time. It is a good idea to thoughtfully place several of the most important treasures with or without monstrous guardians and then switch to a random determination for the balance of the level. Naturally, the more important treasures will consist of various magical items and large amounts of wealth in the form of gems and jewelry. Once these have been secreted in out-of-the-way locations, a random distribution roll using a 6-sided die can be made as follows. Oh, okay. 1. Roll the die for every room or space not already allocated. A roll of 1 or 2 indicates that there is some monster there. The monsters can be selected by use of the monster determination and level monster matrix. I love the name of that chart, which is later in this volume. The number of monsters is best determined by the level being considered and the level of the monster inhabiting the room or space. The monster table from volume 2 can be most helpful here. Note, ochre jellies, black puddings, and green slime, etc. are generally distributed randomly, usually in passages without treasure. No treasure for the black pudding. It's the treasure in itself, right? Roll again for every room and space. Roll of 1 to 3 in these rooms or spaces with monsters in them indicates some form of treasure is present. A roll of 1 in a room or space which is unoccupied indicates that there is some form of treasure there. To determine what sort of treasure, use the following table. And again, we get a table for silver, gold, gems, jewelry, and magic items and so forth. And a picture of a basilisk. Check it out. I will also flag up, last weekend I watched Eye of the Beholder on, I think it's on Amazon Prime. A great little film about the art of D&D, the artwork in D&D from from this edition onwards, with various artists on it talking about the work, how they were, how it was, working for D&D and generating the artwork. Yeah, really interesting show. Yes, it really is, Ralph. I agree. It really is a game first and foremost. He says the whole dungeon layout and mechanisms can be explained by hand waving, it seems. Yeah, I think there's a stronger game element in some of this stuff than perhaps comes through in some ways than it's perhaps been supplanted by the idea of story and character and role playing. I think there was more game here, perhaps. It's arguable, debatable. Unguarded treasures should be invisible, hidden behind a secret door or under the floor, locked in hard to open strong boxes with poison needles or deadly gas released when they are opened. There are many variants of the above possible, and many other types of protection can be devised. So don't just put it in there for free. Players got to work for it. Maintaining freshness. I mean, that speaks for itself in the role-playing hobby, but let's see what they actually mean. As monsters inhabiting the rooms, spaces, and corridors of a level are killed or captured, the level will become drab and dull. Without those monsters, where's the interest? Coupled with this problem, players will have made fairly accurate maps of the level. Never happened in my games, but I was mapping. So it will be challenge-less this way also. Remembering that egress to lower levels is desirable, one must nevertheless revamp worn levels by 1 or 2 of the several methods suggested below. So we really get the feel that the players are going to almost get to be at home in the dungeon. They're like, we've done this level, we've mapped it out, we can travel around it a bit, but we've done it all now. Why would they go back to the rooms they've already been to? It kind of feels like this is sort of saying they would. Make minor alterations with eraser and pencil, blocking passages, making new ones, dividing rooms, and filling in the others. Is there any thought here to who's putting up those blockages? Who's digging those tunnels? Do we need that rationale? I don't think we do. Perhaps we don't. Extend the boundaries of the map. If not already filled to the edges of the paper, adding corridors and rooms. I mean, you could always glue another bit of paper on the side, couldn't you? Sellotape was a thing. Replace monsters in new areas, as well as those less frequented old areas where monsters were located and removed sometime previously. Reverse directions on the map. What? Reverse directions on the map. Carefully relocating ways down to lower levels as they still correspond to markings below, and do the same for passages upward. Okay, I'm not sure I fully grasp that. 5. Add a passage which continues past the established boundary of the level, creating a split or sub-level which it leads to, complete with new treasure and monsters. Using these suggestions and whatever else you dream up, there is no reason why participants in the campaign should not continue to find mystification, enjoyment, excitement, and amusement in the challenge of the myriad passages of the dungeons. Because I think a key word there, he says, blah, 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 doesn't say that. Whatever else you dream up, it almost does feel a bit dreamlike. You know, you're walking along, there was a door there wasn't one there when I came past here last time, but now there's a passage there. I'll go back the way I came, suddenly the directions are reversed. How would this happen? Move, stroke, turn in the underworld. In the underworld, all distances are in feet. It's just imperial. It's a dungeon. I think that metric doesn't work in dungeons, does it? Not really. It doesn't feel right. So wherever distances are given in inches, convert them to tens of feet. 1 inch, 10 feet. I'm glad they're telling us now in book 3. Movement, distances given in volume 1, is in segments of approximately 10 minutes. Thus, it takes 10 minutes to move about 2 moves. 120 feet for a fully armored character. 2 moves constitute a turn, except in flight stroke pursuit situations where the move's turns will be doubled and no mapping allowed. Okay, time must be taken to rest. So 1 turn every hour must be spent motionless, and double the rest period must be taken after a fight or flight takes place. Time spent searching for anything, such as secret passages, hidden treasure, etc., loading treasure, listening, ESPing, hiding, will be adjudged by the referee as to what portion of a turn will be used by the activity. Typically, ESPing will take but a quarter turn, while searching a 10-foot section of wall for secret passages takes a full turn. Just 10 feet of passage. I mean, that's less than the wall behind me. 10. Yeah, okay. Melee is fast and furious. There are 10 rounds of combat per turn. Let me just dig back into, I thought a turn was 10 minutes, right? Am I right about that or not? Movement given in volume 1 is in segments of approximately 10 minutes. Thus, it takes 10 minutes to move 2 moves. 2 moves constitute a turn. Yeah, so a turn is 10 minutes, yeah. It just didn't say a turn is 10 minutes. They could have just said that, full stop. Secret passages will be located on the roll of a 1 or 2 on a 6-sided die by men, dwarves, or halflings. Elves will be able to locate them on a roll of 1 to 4. At the referee's option, elves may be allowed the chance to sense any secret door they pass on a 1 or a 2, indicating that they become aware that something is there. No mention of what gnomes can do or cannot do. I didn't write it, but let me just dig into yes, I can't even say this. Gygaxian naturalism. There's a phrase, Mr. Cowie. Thank you for that one. Yes, and yes, Lee, Eye of the Beholder is indeed a great documentary. I'm glad people are loving it. Yes, the owner is constantly working on his pleasure funhouse. It kind of is. Yeah, and to have a safe base away from the dungeon, so you could make kind of multiple trips. Yes, indeed. Okay. Generally, doors will open by turning the handle or by a push. Seems fair. It's a door. Oh, I'm sorry. Do you know what? I misread that because I was thinking, do they? Because that my door does that. You twist the handle and it opens, but I'm pretty sure these don't. I missed out a keyword there. Not. Generally, doors will not open by turning the handle or by a push. Doors must be forced open by strength. A roll of 1 or 2 indicating the door opens. Although smaller and lighter characters may be required to roll a 1 to open doors. There can be up to 3 characters attempting to force open a door, but this will disallow them rapid reaction to anything awaiting them on the other side. Most doors will automatically close, despite the difficulty in opening them. Doors will automatically open for monsters unless they are held shut against them by characters. Doors can be wedged open by means of spikes, but there is a 1/3 chance on a 5 or 6 on a die that the spike will slip and the door will shut. So let's just be clear there. So I have to push the door open and like roll a die. Monster just opens. Traps are usually sprung by a roll of 1 or 2 when any character passes over them. Pits will open in the same manner. Yeah, so if you pass by a trap, a 1 or 2, boing, it goes off. When characters come to a door, they may listen to detect any sound within. Note, undead never make a sound. Oh, no, not even groaning. A roll of 1 for humans and 1 or 2 for elves, dwarves, or halflings will detect sound within if there is any to be heard. A good referee will have noise corridors, moaning, clanking, and rooms from which come shuffling or muttering sounds. Doesn't say what a bad referee will have. In the underworld, some light source or infravision must be used. Torches, lanterns, magic swords will illuminate the way, but they also allow monsters to see the users so that monsters will never be surprised unless coming through a door. Also, torches can be blown out by a strong gust of wind. Monsters are assumed to have permanent infravision, as long as they are not serving some character. I love that. The monsters can see in the dark, unless you befriend them or, subdue them and get them on your side, and then they can't. When some referees allow fireballs and lightning bolts to be hurled in confined spaces, blasting sections of the stone equal to the remainder of their normal shape, it is suggested that the confined space cause these missiles to rebound towards the sender, i.e. a lightning bolt thrown down a corridor 40 feet long will rebound so as to reach its stated length of 6 inches, 60 feet underground, and this will mean the sender is struck by his own missile. It may also be compromised, allowing, say, 2 feet of the stone wall to be destroyed, allowing 1 foot of stone destroyed for every 10 feet the space is short of the full distance, and the rebounding missile 1/2 the distance short. Okay. Right. So, yeah, so basically the things bounce back at you. Why was that section there? It's about moving and taking turns in the underworld. Well, it seemed an odd place to put that, but never mind. It's all good. Underworld monsters. Sorry, one. Sighting monsters. Players will see monsters at 20 to 80 feet. Roll a pair of 4-sided dice to determine the distance, unless they are surprised by the monster. Surprise! A condition of surprise can exist when one or both parties are unaware of the presence of the other. Such things as ESPing, light and noise will negate surprise. If the possibility for surprise exists, roll a 6-sided die for each party concerned. A roll of 1 or 2 indicates the party is surprised. Distance is then 10 to 30 feet. Surprise gives the advantage of a free move segment, whether to flee, cast a spell, or engage in combat. If monsters gain surprise, they will either close the distance between themselves and the characters, unless they are intelligent, and their prey is obviously too strong to attack, or they will just attack. For example, a wyvern surprises a party of 4 characters when they round a corner into a large open cavern. It attacks as it is within striking distance, as indicated by the surprise distance determination, which was a 2, indicating distance between them was but 10 feet. The referee rolls a pair of 6-sided dice for the wyvern and scores a 6. So it will not sting. It bites and hits. The wyvern may attack once again before the players strike back. Now we come to an old favourite, wandering monsters. Let's just have a look. What's Mr. Cowie angry about? I'm not quite sure. He says he's furious. I'm not sure. Yes, obviously bad at fitting doors. I mean, I've fitted one door from scratch myself, and it is pretty tricky, actually. Yeah, there's a lot of spirit levels, planes, you know, all sorts of stuff involved, including copious swearing, and it's a pretty magical thing to get a door that actually doesn't stick. Wandering monsters. At the end of every turn, remember 10 minutes, the referee will roll a 6-sided die to see if a wandering monster has been encountered. A roll of 6 indicates a wandering monster has appeared. The direction of appearance is determined by the random number generation, considering the number of possible entries. Distance and surprise are decided in the usual manner. The kind of monster is determined on the table below. For wilderness encounters, an entirely different table will be used. So we get the monster determination and level of monster matrix. And then you get the level below, beneath the surface, from 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, all the way down to 13, and a die roll. So on in the first level of the dungeon, you could have anything up to a 4th level monster wandering around. Yep. Actually, I may have misunderstood that. You can have, there are monster level table numbers go from 1 to 6. And on the first level of the dungeon, you could end up rolling on the 4th level table. That makes more sense. Okay. So on the level, the monster level table, level 1, your standards: kobolds, goblins, orcs, skeletons, giant rats, centipedes, bandits, spiders, small fry. Now on level 1 of the dungeon, we could go up to the level 4 monster table. So let's just have a look, see what's on that. Wraiths, ogres, evil priests, myrmidons, giant beetles, giant scorpions, lycanthropes, white apes, enchanters. Yep. All the way up to level 6. I always like to dig into like the most dangerous bit. Now you can encounter a level 6 monster. There's so many uses of the word level here. Monster level table 6 can be used, if you roll high, it can be used on the 3rd level of the dungeon. So let's just say 3rd level of the dungeon. You could be encountering a hydra with 9 to 12 heads, dragons, basilisks, lords, vampires, vampire lords, evil high priests, and purple worms. And if you're not sure what a giant looks like, there you go. Number of wandering monsters appearing. If the level beneath the surface roughly corresponds with the level of the monster, then the number of monsters will be based on a single creature, modified by type. That is, orcs and the like will be in groups, and the number of adventurers in the party. A party of from 1 to 3 would draw the basic number of monsters. 4 to 6 would bring twice as many, and so on. The referee is advised to exercise his discretion in regard to exact determinations, for the number of variables is too great to make a hard and fast rule. There can be places where 300 goblins dwell, but how many can come abreast down a typical passage in the dungeons? Geez, 300 hobgoblins. Wandering monster, 300 hobgoblins. No, I don't think so. Allow perhaps 3 in a 10-foot wide passage, and the balance will either be behind the front rank or fanning out to come upon the enemy by other routes. The most fearsome man or monster can be overwhelmed by sheer numbers, or of smaller or weaker creatures, provided the latter are able to close. Wow. Ralph comments, this is sounding more and more like a stream of consciousness. Yes, I think there is an element of that. Avoiding monsters. There are monsters there, but how do you avoid them? Do you want to avoid them? Do you want to stab them? Do you want to run away? Monsters will automatically attack and or pursue any characters they see, with the exception of those monsters which are intelligent enough to avoid an obviously superior force. There is no chance for avoiding if the monster has surprised the adventurers and is within 20 feet, unless the monster itself has been surprised. If the adventurers choose to flee, the monster will continue to pursue in a straight line as long as there is not more than 90 feet between the two. When a corner is turned or a door is passed through or stairs up or down taken, the monster will only continue to follow if a 1 or a 2 is rolled on a 6-sided die. If a secret door is passed through, the monster will follow only on a roll of 1. Distance will open or close dependent upon the relative speeds of the two parties. Men according to their encumbrance, and monsters according to the speed given on the monster table in Volume 2. In order to move faster, characters may elect to discard items such as treasure, weapons, shields, etc. in order to lighten encumbrance. There is a 25% chance that any character surprised by a monster will drop some item. If he does, roll for the possibilities, remembering that only these items held could be so dropped. Burning oil will deter monsters from continuing pursuit. Edible items will have a small likelihood, 10%, of distracting intelligent monsters from pursuit. Semi-intelligent monsters will be distracted 50% of the time. Non-intelligent monsters will be distracted 90% of the time by food. Treasure will have the opposite reaction as food, being more likely to stop intelligent monsters. So if in doubt, throw gold and burgers. That'll pretty much cover it. Random actions by monsters. Other than in pursuit situations, the more intelligent monsters will act randomly according to the results of the score rolled on 2 6-sided die. So roll low, 2 to 5, you get a negative reaction. In the middle, 6 to 8, an uncertain reaction. 9 to 12, positive reaction. So the die score is to be modified by additions and subtractions for such things as bribes offered, fear, alignment of the parties concerned, etc. Okay, so we kind of get an idea of the morale roll there, the first initial reaction roll of the monsters. Bit of it can be positive. Example of the referee moderating a dungeon expedition. Yeah, I think we've got time for this today. Let's dig into an example how Gygax and Arneson, I'm taking it, would have played their dungeon, or at least ways how they presented it in here. Is it how they would have actually done it? Who knows? The players, equipped and ready, are assumed to have located a set of stairs descending to the first level beneath the ground. The referee's part will be indicated ref. That of the caller for the players being shown as cal. I don't think we've encountered the term caller yet in this text. But basically, one person among the group is nominated as the caller, and they alone have the privilege and right to speak directly to the referee, the dungeon master, and everybody else must speak through them. Referee. Steps down to the east. We're going down. 10 foot, 20 foot, 30 foot, a 10-foot square landing. Steps down to the north and curving down southeast. We'll take those to the southeast. 10 feet and the steps curve more to the south. 20 feet, steps end, and you are on a 10-foot wide passage which runs east, southeast, and west. There is a door to the left across the passage on the northwest wall. We listen at the door. 3 of us. Referee, after rolling 3 dice, you hear nothing. At this time, a check for wandering monsters is also made. The caller. Ignore the door and proceed along the corridor southeastwards. Referee. 10 foot, 20 foot, 30 foot, 40 foot, 50 foot, 4-way. Northeast, northwest, south, and southwest. The south passage is 20 foot long. The referee spends a lot of time just calling out numbers. Caller, go south. Referee, 60 foot, 70 foot, everything's in 10-foot increments. Passage continues, doors east and west. Caller, listen at the east door. Referee, after appropriate check, you hear shuffling. Caller, 2 of us, specifying which 2, will throw our weight against the door to open it. All will be ready for combat. Ref, after rolling 2 dice. The door opens. You can't be surprised, but the monsters, you see half a dozen gnolls, can be. Here, a check for surprise is made, melee conducted, and so on. Caller, okay, what does the room look like? We're examining the walls, ceiling, floor, and the contents of the room itself. What? So we had a lot of like numbers, 10 foot, 20 foot, 30 foot, with no like narration of description or anything. We get to the room, there's gnolls in there, and I'm thinking, this is going to be good. But then we just jump that bit and get on to inspecting the walls. Just hand wave the fighting. Referee, after checking to see if dwarves and or elves are in the party, the room is a truncated pyramid. The east wall is the truncated part. Directly opposite the door you entered, it is 10 foot long. It is 10 foot long and another door in it. The walls connecting it to the west wall. The place you entered are each about 35 foot long. The west wall, which is where you entered, is 30 foot long with a door in the middle of the wall. The elf has noted that there seems to be a hollow spot near the east end of the southeast wall. The floor and ceilings seem to have nothing unusual. The room contains the bodies of the gnolls, which you just killed, apparently, off screen. A pile of refuse in the north corner of the west wall, and 2 trunks along the wall opposite the one which sounds hollow. Couldn't we have had an example of combat here? Caller. The elf will check out the hollow sound. One of us will sort through the refuse. Each trunk will be opened by one of us, and the remaining 2, naming exactly who this is, will each guard a door, listening to get an advance warning if anything approaches. Referee. Another check at the hollow sound reveals a secret door which opens onto a flight of stairs down to the south. The refuse is nothing but sacks, bones, offal, and old clothes. One chest is empty. The other had a poison needle on the lock. Here, a check to see if the character open it makes a saving throw for poison. The chest with the poison needle is full of copper pieces. It appears to be about 2,000 of them. At a glance. Caller. Empty out all the copper pieces and check the trunk for secret drawers or a false bottom, and do the same for the empty one. In fact, probably just do that for everything you find. Also, do there seem to be any old boots or clothes or cloaks among the old clothes in the rubbish pile? Referee. Cursing the thoughtfulness of the caller. Damn you, caller! The seemingly empty trunk has a false bottom. In it, that you have found an onyx case with a jeweled necklace therein. The case appears to be worth 1,000 something gold, I guess, and the necklace 5,000 gold pieces. Amidst the litter, the searcher has located a pair of old boots, but there is nothing like a cloak here. Caller. The boots will be tried on now to see if they allow silent movement. We can use a set of elven boots. I will secure the case and necklace in my backpack, while the others will, by turn, fill their backpacks with copper. Yes, I'm the caller. I'll have that shiny necklace. The rest of you load up on copper pieces. Well, I mean, I'm quite wanting to play this, actually, although it kind of lacks narration and flavour. Well, I don't know, does it lack flavour? It doesn't lack flavour, but it lacks kind of narrative description, I kind of feel. Yeah, you possibly, if you were away, you missed a bit of gnoll action, but it was kind of it was kind of hastily delivered. We opened the door, there was gnolls. Next thing we know, they're dead with no description. Referee, we're almost at the end of the example here. This will require 4 turns. He checks for monsters wandering in, and on the fourth turn, one is indicated. However, as there was a listener at the door it is approaching, he also checks to see if it is detected, allowing a good probability that it will be heard. As you complete your loading, the dwarf at the west door detects heavy footsteps approaching. The boots, by the way, are elven type. See, no thought, it's like, are there cloaks, are there boots? Didn't ask, is there a vest? Are there some good like trousers? Nice t-shirt? Couldn't they be magic? No, just cloaks and boots. Caller, excellent. Our magic user will cast a hold portal on the west door while the elf opens the secret one. We will then beat a hasty retreat down the stairs to the south. Onward, friends, to more and bigger loot. End of the example. With appropriate variations for ability to detect and or see what is around them, the adventure will continue in this manner until the party leaves the dungeons or are killed therein. And now there is an illustration of a man in a hat with a feather in it riding a horse. And he's got a cloak on, and he's pointing like that in the air. And in the background, there appears to be another horse rearing up. Check it out. Yes, every PC has the appraisal skill. We can tell at a glance that necklace, probably about 100 gold pieces. That one, that's just paste. That's no good. Yeah, it's like an inbuilt talent. Wilderness. The wilderness. Ooh, we're about to start the wilderness, aren't we? I think we'll enter the wilderness next week, friends, because we've learned a lot about dungeons. Next time, let's not get carried away here. Maybe that's why we're seeing the horse rider. I see now. It's the horse rider because it's in the wilderness. Wouldn't ride a horse in the dungeon. That'd be madness. So, yeah, let's put it on hold there until next week, when we'll come back and delve once more into Underworld and wilderness adventures with a focus on the wilderness. So that's all this week, friends. I've enjoyed looking at your comments, and I hope to see some of you again next week. Until then, keep dungeoning and keep well.